Robot Talk is the podcast that sits down with robot enthusiasts from around the world and asks them the questions you always wanted answered. Like, how do you protect the robot from radiation? And how does that thing work? Hello everyone! Welcome to Robot Talk. I'm your host, Claire Asher, and this week we'll be exploring the latest robotics and AI technology to support nuclear decommissioning. Before we get started, please remember to like or rate this episode and leave us a review if that's something you can do on the platform you're listening on. And don't forget to enter our competition for a chance to win your very own Robot Talk t-shirt. All you have to do is share your favourite episode on social media and tag us at Robot Talk Pod. So, without further ado, I'm excited to introduce this week's guest. I recently had a really interesting discussion with Rav Chunilal from Sellafield, all about robotics and AI for nuclear decommissioning. This week, I'm speaking to Rav Chunilal, a head of robotics and artificial intelligence at Sellafield, who's developing and deploying robotics and AI technologies to decommission the site safely, efficiently, and cost-effectively. Hi, Rav. Great to have you on Robot Talk.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Very good. Very good today.
Fantastic. So Sellafield is the UK's largest nuclear site and is currently being decommissioned. So to get us started, what are some of the biggest challenges in decommissioning this site?
Okay, brilliant. So let me just give you a little bit of background then. So Sellafield is part of the NDA group. The NDA is the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority, 17 sites across the country, Sellafield being the largest, as you've just mentioned there. So what we're doing in the robotics and AI capability is bringing together experts and enthusiasts from all over the sort of organisation and the group to work as one team to undertake R&D together. This is to avoid duplication of efforts, but also it's to share the sort of learning across the whole group, just to be able to undertake the mission more effectively going forward. One thing I'd like to just sort of bring out is that we're focused on hazard and risk reduction. That's the core part of our mission, together with safe storage of nuclear fuel and also the materials to decommission the site as well. So we have a 100-year plan, which costs many billions, slightly longer than most plans, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, it's around safety and security, which is our number one priority. And that is for our workforce on and off the site, but also for our surrounding communities as well. So some of the biggest challenges we face right now is access to radioactive areas. So we have a lot of very old legacy facilities. There are some facilities that have not been used for a number of years. So what we want to be able to do is be able to access those remotely using robotics and autonomous systems to go into the environment, scan it, provide us with that useful information that we need to then optimize how we decommission those cells going forward, and then ultimately the facility, and then share that learning across the many facilities that we have, not just at Sellafield, but then across the NDA group as well. So that is going to be one of our key challenges as we move forward, coupled with how we transmit data as well. So our information and data that we handle in some cases can be quite sensitive. And what we need to do is look at protecting that as best as we can so that we can work more efficiently and effectively with robots and using AI technologies as well into the future.
I mean, a 100-year plan is much longer than most people who I interview on this podcast. It must be strange to be making plans that will not be finished probably in your lifetime.
Yeah, and possibly even my kids as well going forward. Yes, certainly it's something that we've recognised, but it's the nature of the mission that we have. Our mission has changed over the last several decades,
Mm.
We have recently stopped reprocessing nuclear fuel,
Okay.
and we've now moved into the era of decommissioning the site. So waste management and management of the fuel and materials that we store on the site is the core of our mission now going forward.
Mhm. And a few of my guests previously have mentioned Sellafield in passing, and I was quite surprised to learn that there are these buildings or these areas where it's not really fully known exactly what's there.
So again, our mission has changed over the last several decades. As I mentioned,
Mm.
um, we now design our facilities with decommissioning in mind,
Mm.
whereas previously I don't think that was part of our original remit.
Right.
But certainly, with what we know now, it's thought about upfront to help make that whole life cycle process, simpler ultimately. So as a result of our focus, we've got some legacy materials that we do need to start cleaning up. We have a lot of robotics already on use on the Sellafield site that is allowing us to characterize and map environments and
Mm.
bring back useful information. So we do use robotics on a more routine basis. We've been using underwater ROVs now for the best part of 15 years.
Wow.
It's a routine part of the operations team,
Mm.
and this is to avoid sending people in those sort of like radioactive environments. So you can undertake those operations in a much safer manner, but
Yeah.
also you can access a lot more information and data as a result of it, and start making decisions much quicker in terms of what you need to do moving forward. So I do feel we are making progress on this front, and
Mm.
we've got an opportunity to make even more progress by accelerating the deployments of these type of technologies. But we need to do this collectively. We can't do this on our own. We need to do this with teams of people internally, but also externally as well. So we'll do this with our supply chain. We'll do this through academia, and very importantly as well, we'll be working with our regulators to make sure that we're together on this journey as we're doing it as well.
Sure. And so, as you've kind of touched on a little bit, Sellafield have developed robots to perform all sorts of tasks, from remote inspection to waste handling and demolition. Um, Given that radiation can cause issues for electronics, how do you design robots that can safely, for example, handle nuclear waste or enter areas with potentially high levels of radiation?
I'd love to say, oh, it's really simple. We just do it. We just make it happen. But it's not. It's not quite the case.
Mm.
So this is where we branch out into expertise in this area. So we
Mm.
work with the national labs. We work with other SMEs and organisations who specialise in these areas. So going back to the underwater ROVs
Mm.
that we've been deploying for a number of years now. The radioactivity in those environments is quite high,
Yeah.
and the robots that we have deployed in those areas are able to withstand, the radioactivity that we have in there. That is because of the rad hardening coatings that may have been applied to them. It may be to do
Mm.
with the extra level of shielding that we've put in place, whether it be on the robotics or in the surrounding area. But it could be to do with a number of different areas. But this is an area which is something that we're continuously developing,
Mm.
and we recognise that it's an important part of a successful decommissioning mission for us.
Okay, so it's more about shielding the electronics and protecting them from that radiation.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And one of the challenges that we do have is communicating as well in those environments. So
Mm.
as a result of the radiations that we have in our environments, we've got to have a good amount of shielding in place to ensure that we protect our workers, but also ensure that the material is contained within those areas that we want them to be,
Mm.
which makes it difficult to communicate between those areas and then an area which is outside to undertake remote operations.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're looking at are different ways of wireless communications, but we need to make sure that they are secure, and it passes all the sort of like security tests for not just
Mm.
Sellafield but for our regulator as well.
Sounds like there's a lot to consider and take into account here.
Absolutely. But again, we have some really passionate and enthusiastic people working on this across our sites. They really want to get technologies like this deployed to make a real difference and accelerate delivery of our mission, but also make the jobs of our operators as simple as possible as well. So they do get a buzz out of this as well to actually go the extra mile and make a difference.
Yeah, sure. It's always satisfying to be able to solve a complex problem. So you're also working on using artificial intelligence to support decommissioning activities. Can you tell me a little bit about some of these technologies?
Yeah, sure. So we're still at the foothills of adopting artificial intelligence. We recently published our first AI strategy. So if you search Sellafield AI strategy, you will see our first version of that on the internet.
Mm.
Um, this is around how it can help improve the delivery of our mission and how it can help us improve efficiencies and be more effective with our decision making going forward. So that could be from adopting AI for use in our operational areas, but also in our sort of functional business areas as well. Um, so we have kickstarted this by taking a few projects where we can demonstrate the value that AI can have if we were to then look at scaling it up. And those projects are distributed across the organization so that we can get a better understanding of where the valuable impact could be.
Mm.
But we're also looking at this in a way where we can reskill some of our existing workforce as well, to learn new skills for new bits of technology that is coming on the horizon. We have already developed a couple of tools already that are showing to be quite beneficial. So we've worked with our supply chain to be able to do this, and some of these are quite simple. So it's looking at changes in documentation or legislation that might be out there, and
Mm.
flagging that up early, and then focusing the attention on the bits that need our attention,
Mm.
and then prioritizing that for us. Automatically that cuts out a number of hours worth of work,
Yeah.
if not more. But we're also looking at internal chat models as well, where we can use the models that we see freely available to us, in our personal lives that we have access to, but be able to use those sort of tools internally as well to be able to extract information from the plethora of documentation that we have,
Mm.
and bring back some answers and results that are going to be quite simple to understand.
Yeah. And I think you kind of mentioned this earlier, but is there also scope to use AI to kind of analyze or process some of the data that the robots are bringing back?
Absolutely. So that is part of the bigger plan. This is about trying to create, and I think it'll be the first of the kind, a mechanism by which we can communicate wirelessly information backwards and forwards in a secure manner.
Mm.
I've mentioned secure and security a number of times, and it's absolutely paramount and important for us to make sure that we do keep that at the forefront of what we're doing. So we are looking at how we transmit data, from plants through these environments back to the operator, but then also being able to seamlessly send the commands back, to the robotics to be able to undertake the action as a result of it as well. So that is in the pipeline. We're doing some of that already. We recently deployed a quadruped into a hazardous environment, fully remote controlled from outside of that cell. It's undertaken work that we've not been able to do for a couple of decades, and brought
Wow.
back some really valuable information about the environment to help look at accelerating the decommissioning of that specific area. So
Mm.
it made a real difference as a result of that. We've shared that learning across the rest of the group. The group is also looking to adopt those sort of technologies on other sites, to be able to
Mm.
take the decommissioning and acceleration forward.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds like a really interesting and fast evolving area to be working in.
Definitely. It's down to the people that we have working in this area. Definitely. They are truly passionate and enthusiastic about what they do. and they live and breathe this. We work with quite a few supply chain members as well, again, who love this type of work. So part of our remediation capability, they've been working with supply chain to get these technologies deployed onto the site as demonstrators. And the value that's proving is just absolutely amazing. It's showing that we can go into radioactive environments and undertake tasks that we weren't able to do previously, in a much better manner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, really important work. So what developments in robotics and AI for nuclear decommissioning are you most excited about in, say, the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, that is a big question. So personally, I think this is about us creating a sustainable future and using smart automated tools such as robotics to be able to deliver our waste management more effectively by acknowledging the importance of quality data and the role that plays in decision making. So I'd like us to become not just a national, but a global leader in using robotics and AI for nuclear decommissioning. I want us to be used as a testbed site, and not just Sellafield, but across the NDA group. And I'd like us to bring together partnerships with other organisations as well. So we've recently formed a partnership between ourselves, the NDA, UKAEA, and University of Manchester on RACO, which is the Robotics and AI collaboration. And that's the first of its kind in terms of how we've set that up. And it's taking common challenges from fission and fusion together and looking at how we undertake remote operations, size reduction, data management, digital infrastructure, and all the things that will help create this autonomous environment for the future. I see that expanding in the future to include other members of the supply chain and also from academia as well. So I think it's got a huge role to play in the national agenda as well as part of the levelling up, but also for us to be part of it from nuclear decommissioning. I think it's going to play a critical role in that.
Yeah, it's important, I guess, like you said, to be leading the way. I mean, I'll confess I don't know that much about the nuclear industry, but I assume there are going to be other plants over the coming years and decades that need to start entering this decommissioning process as they reach the end of their sort of lifespan and can hopefully follow your lead.
Yeah, I hope so. Definitely, we'd want to be able to share our experiences with other sites as well. And if we can be a global leader in nuclear decommissioning, I'm sure that will help other sites, not just across the country, but globally, accelerate their decommissioning missions too.
Fantastic. Rav, it's been fascinating speaking to you today. I've been chatting to Rav Chunilal, Head of Robotics and AI at Sellafield. Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy Robot Talk, please do share the podcast, subscribe, and leave a review to let us know what you think. And if you've got a question you'd like me to ask one of my future guests, you can contact us on social media at Robot Talk Pod or visit robottalk.org. We regularly announce upcoming guests, and I'd love to include your robotics questions, whether they're super basic, a bit silly, or even quite profound, in my next interview. Next week, I'm talking to Katarzyna Szopinska from KUKA, all about software and hardware for medical robotics. Until then, I've been Claire Asher, and this has been Robot Talk. Robot Talk is brought to you by the Hamlin Centre, Imperial College London.